After the crash of 2008, the banks gave me $300 million tax-free to buy real estate that the idiots had lost. They were idiots because the prices were so high. Why would you buy it at the top of a market? Don't you know that's going to crash? Had driven the price of real estate so high, and the rest of us were just waiting. So Wall Street gave us hundreds of millions of dollars to mop up all that real estate these guys had lost. Now, it's fair because everybody could do it. That's what's going on in the world today. It's fake money, fake teachers, fake asses. The school teachers will never tell you that because they don't know it. My poor dad never knew that. And they think the rich are crooks. The rich just play by different laws. The rules are the same, but you have to do what the government wants you to do.
And now back to One Tree Hill.
Dude, let me tell you something. There is nothing that'll ever happen in the rest of our lives that's as important as what's going on right here, right now in high school by these lockers.
I've got so many problems.
Hey, nothing that can't be fixed by staring at a lake.
High school is such a serious thing. These problems matter.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Sheep Get Sheared podcast, where here we talk about people, politics, and popular culture. I'm your host, the one and only Austin Cree, and my friends. If you enjoyed those little clips, hey, first of all, I love listening to Robert Kiyosaki. He's a very insightful man. He's been through a lot, and I appreciate his advice. The second clip was just a parody. Anybody who's seen Family Guy, hilarious. But, my friends, today's discussion is centered around lessons that you should have learned in high school. Now, for a lot of us, high school's in the rearview mirror. We're not worried about it. It's over. Been over for a little bit, or maybe you're fresh out of it. Kind of like me to an extent. But some of you might be in high school right now, listening to this show, and high school's tough for everybody. All right, that's number one. But for those of us who've been past it, we've seen the mountaintop, we've been there, we're done. We can look back every once in a while and we'll cringe at some of the things we did, but other things were just, there was a simpler time. I think we can often romanticize the past and how beautiful it was and how simple it was, but there are lessons that I learned in high school that you might have learned, or maybe you didn't learn, and there are probably lessons that you learned that I didn't learn, but when I was in high school, it was probably just like everybody else, where everybody wanted to fit in. You didn't want to stand out too much, which was hard because I was already tall and lanky and kind of stood out by default. But high school is similar to life in the sense that everybody tries to figure out where they fit, who they mesh with, who they don't mesh with. They want to figure out what they're good at, maybe what they should pursue. Should they take risks? Should they play it safe? All these things are very cemented in the high school experience, especially when you're a freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, you got to figure it out a little more. Senior year, you feel like you're running the joint. You feel like the teachers are kind of just there for you, but you really won school, High school is pretty much over when you're a senior, especially in second semester. You're just like, we go to college already. I'm barely even here. They can't touch me. But in the earlier parts of high school, there are so many movies dedicated to the high school experience and the high school journey. But I want to highlight a couple of very important lessons that everybody should have learned. And if you haven't learned, or maybe you're like me and you learned a little bit later, and you're like, dang, if I had known X in high school, if I had known Y in high school, I would be so far ahead of the game right now. It wouldn't even be fair to everybody else. Or if you're in high school, what are some lessons that you've learned? You can ponder that while I go to my very first point. But before I really highlight what I've learned, I want to bring this up. It says the 5 major challenges that students face in high school. Let's look at this. It says, logically, you may know that there's more to life than high school. I sure hope so, unless you're the guy from One Tree Hill. But teenage brains don't. This is true. Because your brain is still not fully developed. It's not fully developed till you're 25. Technically, my brain isn't fully developed yet, but that's never an excuse. Alright, it says, if you're in junior high or high school, chances are you're experiencing at least 2 or 3 of these daily challenges. Here they are. Number 1, sleep deprivation. As teenagers need more sleep than at any other point in their lives, yet they are asked to sleep less than most other people, trying to keep up with school, extracurriculars. That's a tough word. Say that one 5 times fast. Family life and a social life that can be exhausting on its own. Let's see. So the solutions to that would be setting up a routine. This is a good point, and one I have not read this through first, but setting up a routine is incredibly important. Once you get a routine going and you have a pattern, that gives you power over your life. It gives you power over your everyday experience because it makes the world not as... You don't have to conquer life on someone else's terms. You can conquer life on your own terms when you have a routine. That's one of the tips that I would give to someone who's in high school, and lessons I wish I learned is don't go out there and party. Don't go out there and be irresponsible. High school is a time where you want to get ahead of the game. Let me ask you a question. Would you rather party in high school, or would you rather party in your 30s after you made your first million? Yeah, that's a real question, isn't it? Yeah. Next, let's see. What's the second challenge? Being overwhelmed or disorganized. You ever notice a trend? I'm noticing a trend with these. These are patterns of behaviors you learn in high school or even in junior high, and they're cemented in high school, and then they repeat in your adult life. This high school, this disorganization and being overwhelmed. Organization in high school is critical. Not knowing when things are due or having a schedule to rely on can make anyone feel like they're going crazy. Yeah, that can go for anything in life, that's for sure. Number 3, unhealthy relationships. This is a big one because at the end of the day, this will only get worse if you don't deal with it now. When I was in high school, I was very blessed to have a couple of really good friends that I'm still close with to this day and I've known for a long time. Most people are alone or they have to fake who they are to try to get people to like them. I don't care if you were popular, you had to fake to make to an extent. Whether it was 10% or 100%, it doesn't make a difference. And that produces unhealthy relationships. Because if you don't have a sense of self, you're going to dictate your self-worth based on what other people think about you, which is very dangerous and very harmful. Let's read what it says. It says, high school age is about the same time people start to have desires to be independent. That is very important. Because it's natural and a good thing for you to want to separate yourself from your parents because it means you are getting ready to be an adult. Okay, being a teenager, first of all, is a very new concept. Back in the day, with a shorter life expectancy, you were expected to be an adult when you were more of a teenager. Like around the age of 15, 16 is when you were considered an adult in most cultures, if not before that. And so, in high school, lessons that you need to learn in high school, I'll show you another nugget, another thing another lesson I wish I learned in high school. And that is this. In high school, life can be very all-consuming. And you need to decide what you want out of your life. Whether it's you want to be an athlete, or you want to be a professor, or I don't care how outlandish your dream is. I don't care if your counselor laughs at you. Most academics I have met, with very rare exception, are very egg-headed and they don't understand reality. They live in the ideology and they live in the theoretical. They don't live in the reality and they don't understand. They don't know what it's like to achieve something truly great. And I want to tell you, they are very much in the system. They're very plugged in. And for someone like me who's very not plugged into the system, I have taken the dose of reality and I take it every single day with my vitamins. And so when I tell you that when it comes to unhealthy relationships, the most unhealthy relationship you'll have is believing everything that you learn in school. Because it is an indoctrination camp that is meant to keep you as a corporate slave on the plantation. And so you need to break out of that. That's the first thing you need to do in high school that I wish I had learned beforehand, is most of the stuff they teach you is just a bunch of garbage that's not going to be any value to you after high school is over. Oh, we have bullying. In other words, you need to learn on how to stand up for yourself. And if you have a hard time advocating for yourself, that is something you need to start doing now. I'm not saying go punch someone in the nose. What I'm saying is, do not let people push you around, because if you accept that role, that won't go away in high school. That will continue on throughout the rest of your life, and you will always see yourself as a victim. And victims don't achieve victory. They are vanquished by those who actually achieve success in life. They will continue to be bullied forever. There's a scene in Back to the Future that I like to watch. And I would play it, but I would probably get a copyright. I've been getting copyrighted more on some of my videos. But there's a scene where Marty, who's the main protagonist, he walks in on his dad and his dad's buddy Biff, who Biff used to bully him in high school. And he's now his boss, and he's still bullying him to this day. Years, decades later, he's still bullying McFly. That doesn't change, and it's the same thing here. It may not be a very direct parallel, but the same people who bullied you in high school are probably going to bully you outside of high school. So you got to learn to stand up for yourself now, or always be the guy getting picked on. Anxiety and depression. Oh, this is a complicated one, because yes, I would care to wager that anxiety and depression are just part of the human condition. There are a lot of us out here, including myself, who are depressed and wake up feeling very anxious and depressed all the time. And I say that as someone who has struggled with mental health in the past when I was in the military. And I understand how dangerous it can be. Just like anything else in your life, though, if it's a negative, it can become a positive. And if it's a positive, and you need to keep it there. You can use anything to your advantage, especially if you're a creative person. Next one. So this is an interesting one, online high school. I was not in high school during COVID, thank God. I was in the military. But after high school was really when online high school just skyrocketed because of the pandemic. And I have a lot of sympathy for people who had to do online high school. It's not fun, and you don't get that true, authentic experience you see in the movies, or that people before you have had, and that maybe even people now. I don't know what high school is like now, besides what my brother tells me who's in high school. So, it's a very interesting situation when it comes to, if you were in high school during COVID, you were in a very unique period of your life, to be quite frank and honest with you. But my friends, this is something I really want to bring to your attention. High school is a temporary time in your life. Whether it's the longest 4 years of your life or was very short because you enjoyed every second of it. Hear me when I tell you, high school will not matter after it's over. There are very few people who peak in high school. Most of them are people who don't have actual dreams. They just have a self-inflated ego, and they don't build a foundation. To survive in high school, you have to build a foundation for yourself. That is your goal. At least it should be if you want to succeed. Plant seeds of success now in high school if you're in it. And that's the number one lesson I give you, is use this time to take risks, discover who it is you are and what you want. Now, that's a really hard thing to do. That could take an entire lifetime for some people, but if you can achieve that in 4 years, you will be so far ahead. Because so many people that I know have such a hard time with this concept of saying, hey, life is full of periods. Life is a marathon, it is not a sprint. And too many people live high school and life in general as a sprint. And it is something that you must learn to not do and avoid at all costs. High school is a stepping stone, a very brief period of your life that if you can maximize will give you a head start. If you fumbled the bag in high school, it's not over. You still have time. However, back to Napoleon Hill's book, Outwitting the Devil, he discusses that if you get on your purpose early, you will achieve your goals earlier. And I discuss the very same concept in Biblical Bachelor, where I talk about this idea of finding your route to success and being very realistic about it, especially because life is complicated and it's full of people trying to tell you what to do, what not to do, what you should do, what you ought to do, and it's very paralyzing because you want to make everybody happy, when in fact the only person whose happiness matters is yours. And the only happiness you're responsible for is your own. If you try to make everybody else happy, you will waste your life away. Don't go out of your way to make people sad, but do not go out of your way to live your life so other people can be happy. Don't do that. That is such a backwards way to live. You must decide who it is you want to become. But before you do that, you have to know who you are now. And if you're unhappy with it, then you can change it. But don't misdiagnose yourself. Just as a doctor cannot treat a disease he cannot diagnose, you cannot change your life if you don't even know what life you're currently living. Lessons I wish I learned in high school was centered around my own personal development and self-improvement, because I had no idea what those two things even looked like. I just knew that I was unhappy with who I was because I wanted to be cool. I wanted the hot girls to like me. I wanted the jocks to respect me. I wanted to do fun things, go to fun places, have fun with fun people. But I wasn't focused on what actually mattered, which was, what does my future look like? What does a year from now look like? 4 years from now look like? What does 10 years from now look like for me? I was not focused on that. And if you can put aside the petty BS in high school that will not matter the second it's over, the second you walk across that stage, all that junk ceases to matter. Whether it is you're the coolest guy in school or the biggest loser on campus. As soon as you walk across that stage at graduation, no one cares. The road is over. You've reached the end. So what happens after that? That's the real question, and that's the lesson I wish I learned. The number one lesson I wish I learned was the future was what mattered. You feel like you got problems in high school, and you do. But the problems that you'll have later on will dwarf them by tenfold. And so if you could start conquering them now, you will be so far ahead of everybody else who's still stuck in high school or who's stuck in college. My friends, I want you to remember what we've been talking about today. And for those of you who have gone past high school, just know that, have a good time and laugh about it. Because I'm sure we could all laugh about the cringy stuff we did in high school and whatnot. Because at the end of the day, it was a very interesting time to be alive. And a very interesting time that we probably learned a lot from. But my friends, the lessons that I would want you to take away is think about the future. Focus on developing yourself. Realize that no matter whether you're the coolest person in school or the biggest loser, the second that you walk across that stage and graduate, the whole thing becomes obsolete. And at the end of the day, you need to look to the future, and the only person you can depend on to be part of that future is yourself. And do not get caught up in relationships with women or with other people who you might not even see again. You need to be able to be alone, and you need to be able to conquer the world one little small decision at a time. I hope this really brought this home for you. And if you are past high school, do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? I talk a little bit about I think I talk a little bit about high school in Biblical Bachelor, but I talk more about the lessons I've learned from high school up until now that have helped me develop my personal philosophy that I am living at this very moment, that has changed my life, and I wanted to change yours. So if you're interested in reading Biblical Bachelor, you can pre-order it right now on Amazon. I will have a link in the description. And my friends, it will change your life, because I learned a lot of things the hard way. I'll go into depth about my military experience probably later on this week. So I want to slowly kind of go step by step on how I reached where I am and how I developed my personal philosophy that I am currently living at this very moment, this day. And it's constantly evolving, but it's always being tested. My friends, God bless you. God bless your families. God bless America. We're out of here. Have a great rest of your day. Peace.